June 13, 1944, Normandy. A single Tiger tank rolls out of a tree line and into the flank of a British armoured column. SS Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann opens fire at near point-blank range. Within minutes, the column is wrecked. Half-tracks burning, Cromwell tanks abandoned, infantry scattering into hedgerows. One tank, one man, one engagement that German propaganda will turn into the most famous armoured action of the entire war. This is the Tiger myth at its peak. One machine so powerful, so terrifying, that a single crew can destroy an entire enemy formation. The British called it Tiger phobia. Montgomery reportedly banned frontline reports that mentioned the Tiger's combat performance because of what it did to morale. But here's the part the propaganda never showed. Wittmann's Tiger was knocked out the same day. His actual kill count at Villers-Bocage is disputed. Some sources credit him with far fewer vehicles than the legend claims. And 6 weeks later, Wittmann himself was dead, killed in another Tiger near Sinto, buried in an unmarked grave that wasn't identified until 1983. Strip away the propaganda and run the numbers, and the Tiger one might be the most expensive strategic mistake Germany ever built. If you're into the kind of history that follows the economics instead of the legends, hit subscribe. The full cost of a Tiger 1 to the German military, chassis, 88mm gun, optics, radios, came to roughly 300,000 Reichsmarks per vehicle. That sounds like a number until you compare it to what else Germany could have built with the same resources. A Panzer IV with full armament cost around 116,000 Reichsmarks. A Stug 3 assault gun cost 82,500 Reichsmarks. That means for every single Tiger that rolled off the production line, Germany could have built 3 Stug 3s, or 2 fully equipped Panzer IVs with change left over, and production tells the story even more clearly. Between August 1942 and August 1944, Germany built exactly 1,347 Tiger 1s. In the same war, Germany produced over 10,000 Stug 3s and more than 8,500 Panzer IVs. The Tiger wasn't rare because Germany couldn't scale production. It was rare because each one devoured an outsized share of steel, skilled labor, precision machining, and specialized components that could have gone somewhere else. The price tag was just the beginning. The Tiger weighed 57 tons. Standard German railway flat cars couldn't handle it. Every Tiger required a specialized heavy transport car, which meant dedicated logistics just to get the thing to the front. Once there, it consumed fuel at roughly twice the rate of a Panzer IV. Recovering a broken-down Tiger required a heavy recovery vehicle, or sometimes 2 other Tigers towing it, which pulled additional combat vehicles off the line, and Tigers broke down constantly. In the second half of 1943, Tiger operational availability averaged roughly 40%. That means, at any given time, more than half of Germany's Tigers were in repair, waiting for parts, or stuck on the side of a road. For comparison, the humble Stug 3 ran at 65% availability in the same period. The Panzer IV sat at 48%. Germany built a weapon that spent more time in a workshop than on a battlefield. And every hour a Tiger sat broken, the factory resources that built it were producing nothing. But here's where it gets interesting, because there was a German armoured vehicle that was doing everything the Tiger was supposed to do, killing Allied tanks at an extraordinary rate across every front at a fraction of the cost. The Sturmgeschütz 3 doesn't look like a war machine that changed history. No turret, low, flat profile, squat and ugly compared to the Tiger's imposing silhouette. It looks like someone bolted a gun onto a metal box and sent it to war. That's essentially what happened, and it worked better than anything else Germany ever fielded. Stug 3 crews claimed approximately 20,000 enemy vehicle kills cumulatively by spring of 1944. That's more than Panthers and Tigers combined. Over the course of the entire war, the Stug 3 accounted for a disproportionate share of all tank kills credited to German armor. German records suggest it maintained consistently favorable exchange ratios on the Eastern Front, destroying multiple Soviet armored vehicles for every Stug lost. The low profile made the Stug nearly impossible to spot in a defensive position. The 75mm Stuck 40 gun could kill a T-34 at combat ranges, and unlike the Tiger, when a Stug was knocked out, replacing it didn't bankrupt the production schedule. German commanders understood this perfectly. One anonymous tank commander on the Eastern Front reportedly stated in a post-Kursk after-action report, "I would rather have one Stug battalion than an entire panzer division." The same assessment noted that regular tanks struggled with higher silhouettes, worse cooperation with infantry, and less effectiveness in the defensive fighting that defined the war from 1943 onward. The Stug's effectiveness wasn't mysterious. It was simple economics applied to warfare. It used the proven Panzer III chassis, which meant existing factories, existing tooling, existing spare parts. Crews could be trained faster because the vehicle was mechanically straightforward. When one broke down, it could be repaired in the field without specialized equipment. And because Germany produced them in volume, losses could actually be replaced. The Tiger offered none of this. Every Tiger lost was essentially irreplaceable. The factories couldn't produce them fast enough, the logistics chain couldn't support them efficiently, and the mechanical complexity meant that even surviving Tigers bled maintenance hours that could have kept simpler vehicles fighting. But here's the number that matters most. Allied operational research into Commonwealth tank losses in the European theatre found that self-propelled guns, primarily Stugs, accounted for a significantly larger share of tank kills than enemy tanks did. The weapon that destroyed the most Allied armour in Normandy wasn't a Tiger. It was a turretless box on tracks. There's a fair objection here. The Tiger and the Stug weren't designed for the same role. The Tiger was a breakthrough weapon, a mobile reserve, a concentrated strike force deployed at critical points. The Stug was a defensive vehicle, best used in ambush positions. Comparing them directly isn't entirely fair. That's a legitimate point. But it actually makes the case worse for the Tiger, not better. By mid-1943, Germany was no longer conducting breakthrough operations. It was fighting a defensive war on every front. The strategic situation demanded exactly what the Stug provided: cheap, reliable, effective defensive firepower in large numbers. The Tiger was a weapon designed for a war Germany was no longer fighting. And even in its intended role, the Tiger's impact was tactical, never strategic. A Tiger company could win a local engagement. It could never change the course of a campaign. The resources it consumed, however, could have. When you watch the surviving German newsreel footage from 1943 and 44, the Tiger appears constantly. It's filmed from low angles to emphasize its size. The camera lingers on the massive 88mm gun. Crews are shown confident, loading shells, scanning horizons. The message is unmistakable: this machine will win the war. The Stug 3 barely appears. When it does, it's background footage. No dramatic angles, no heroic crews, no narration celebrating its kill count. The vehicle that was actually winning Germany's armoured engagements was cinematically invisible. This wasn't accidental. The Tiger looked like a wonder weapon. Massive, imposing, terrifying. It photographed beautifully. The Stug looked like a defensive afterthought, which is exactly what the propaganda ministry didn't want German audiences thinking about in 1943, because defensive afterthoughts meant the war was being lost. So the newsreels sold the Tiger, and 80 years later, that propaganda is still working. Walk into any bookstore's military history section. Count the Tiger books versus the Stug books. The ratio tells you that Goebbels' media strategy outlasted the Reich by generations. But propaganda alone doesn't explain why Germany kept building Tigers when the numbers said to stop. For that, you have to go back to a single afternoon in April 1942, and the man whose birthday it was. On April 20, 1942, his 53rd birthday, Hitler inspected competing Tiger prototypes from Henschel and Porsche at Rastenburg in East Prussia. He didn't just observe. He spent half an hour examining Porsche's design, listening to the engineer's explanations. He watched speed tests. He saw the Henschel prototype pivot on its tracks. According to Albert Speer, who was present alongside Göring that afternoon, Hitler's enthusiasm was immediate. And from that moment, the Tiger had something no production committee could override: the Führer's personal attachment. Hitler loved spectacle weapons. The Tiger, the Panther, the V-weapons, the Me-262, he was drawn to technological marvels that promised to change the war through quality rather than quantity. He personally intervened in production decisions, demanded heavier tanks, thicker armor, bigger guns. When Guderian argued for more Panzer IVs and Stugs, Hitler wanted Tigers and Panthers. When engineers proposed simplifying designs for faster production, Hitler pushed for the even heavier Tiger II. His preferences shaped procurement policy in ways that systematically overrode military logic, and he wasn't alone in wanting to keep it alive. The propaganda ministry needed the Tiger. A defensive war fought with low-slung assault guns doesn't sustain home front morale. The Tiger told German audiences that the Reich was still innovating, still powerful, still capable of producing weapons the enemy feared. The Stug couldn't carry that narrative, and the military-industrial complex had its own momentum. Henschel had contracts. Engineers had careers invested in heavy tank design. The Tiger II was already in development. Shutting down the program meant telling Hitler his favorite weapon was a mistake, and in the Third Reich, contradicting the Führer's personal enthusiasms was a career-ending move, sometimes literally. Germany's own commanders saw the problem clearly. Heinz Guderian, Inspector General of Panzer Troops, consistently prioritized Panzer IV production over heavy tanks. He considered the Panzer IV the backbone of the armored force, not the Tiger. Guderian also resisted proposals to replace turreted tanks entirely with assault guns, arguing that the Panzer IV's versatility justified its higher cost compared to the Stug. But even he agreed that heavy tank programs were consuming resources Germany couldn't spare. Erwin Rommel, whose experiences in North Africa demonstrated the devastating effectiveness of the 88mm gun in anti-tank roles, argued for increased emphasis on towed and self-propelled anti-tank weapons to supplement turreted tanks. A towed 88mm Pak 43 anti-tank gun cost approximately 15,000 to 18,000 Reichsmarks, roughly 1/15 to 1/20 the total cost of a Tiger I. Even adding a prime mover for mobility, the cost advantage was enormous. 15 to 20 anti-tank guns positioned across a defensive front versus one Tiger that needs a specialized railcar just to reach the battlefield. The math is devastating. The Tiger I program consumed production capacity at Henschel's Kassel factory from 1942 to 1944. If those same resources, the steel, the machine tools, the skilled labor, the factory floor space, had been redirected to Stug 3 production, Germany could have fielded an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 additional armored vehicles over the same period. Not better vehicles, more vehicles, and in a war of attrition against enemies who were outproducing Germany by factors of 5 or 10 to 1, more was the only thing that could have slowed the bleeding. But Hitler got his birthday present, and Germany paid for it until the end. The Tiger I was a superb piece of engineering that Germany couldn't afford to build. In a one-on-one engagement, it could destroy almost anything it faced. Its 88mm gun was lethal. Its armor, when properly angled, could shrug off most Allied weapons at combat ranges. Individual Tiger crews achieved extraordinary kill counts. None of that is in dispute. But wars aren't decided by individual engagements. They're decided by production capacity, logistics, operational availability, and the ability to replace losses. On every one of those metrics, the Tiger failed. And Germany built 1,347 of them, while the Allies produced tens of thousands of Shermans, T-34s, and self-propelled guns. The Stug 3 killed more Allied tanks. The Panzer IV fought on every front for the entire war. The towed 88mm gun delivered the same firepower for less than a 20th of the investment. The Tiger gave Germany tactical victories and strategic bankruptcy. And the proof is in what the enemy noticed. German intelligence reports from Kursk documented that captured Soviet tank crews described being ordered to avoid engaging Stugs, not Tigers. The vehicle that German interrogators found the enemy most wary of was the one Germany's propaganda ministry refused to celebrate. That's what happens when a war machine prioritizes spectacle over systems. You build the weapon that looks unstoppable on a newsreel, while the weapon that actually stops the enemy gets treated as an afterthought. The Tiger tank dominates every documentary, every bookshelf, every video game about the Second World War. It's also the clearest example of how a regime that confused propaganda with strategy ended up destroying itself. So here's the question. Was the Tiger the most overrated weapon of the entire war? Or did the psychological impact, the Tigerphobia, the morale effect, the fear it generated, justify the resources it consumed? Drop your answer in the comments. Like this video if this changed how you think about German armor. Subscribe for more history that follows the economics, not the legends. Thanks for watching.